This is Shaun Sport in podcast form.
The NBL basketball season is fast approaching, everyone. We're going to have the NBL Blitz over here in WA, which is good news.
Yes.
Well, we've started to see on the news that the Wildcats roster is almost taken shape for this season coming up. We've also got a new owner of the Perth Wildcats, Mark Arena. Mark joins us now. G'day, Mark.
Hey, everyone. How's things?
Hi, Mark. We love your sister Tina, firstly. I just have to say she's amazing.
No relation. Sorry, no relation.
Mark, I was pissing myself laughing when I saw you at a press conference and they were talking about, you know, what you're going to do to the Wildcats and how you're going to change them and how you're going to make them better, and you had one plan. What was your first initial plan? Let everyone know.
Fix the Wi-Fi.
Fix the Wi-Fi, which I love about you.
It is bad in there too, I've got to say. And how are we supposed to post our selfies if we can't get on the Wi-Fi?
Yeah, so that wasn't. So people got confused. It wasn't the RSC Arena Wi-Fi. Sorry, I can't fix that.
What Wi-Fi was it for?
It's the Wildcats office at Bendale Basketball Centre. Happy to report though, it's all fixed.
It's all done.
This
You
is
are
the
a tech
difference.
guru. So,
That's right.
Hey, Mark, what was the interest? I mean, obviously you've been a basketball fan and all that kind of stuff. Did it bother you that the Wildcats weren't in WA hands, and is that why you try to step in?
No, not at all. I mean, I heard some narrative about that. It was just, I thought, I was looking at what am I going to do next in my kind of business career, and I didn't want to do a kind of technology or cybersecurity startup again. I was exhausted. And obviously I read some of the news about, SEN, the kind of previous owner of the Wildcats, and some of the debt issues they had. And I thought it was good timing, and I reached out to Hutchie and had a chat late last year, and one thing's led to another, and here we are.
You own
It's an amazing story.
a basketball team.
It's so cool.
This is like rock star stuff.
Yes.
This is like things that happens in America with all the celebrities, and you've done it here, Mark Arena, Tina's brother.
Yeah, definitely. I'm super excited with the group and what we're doing, and we're off to Japan at the end of the month for a pre-season trip. So first time any NBL team's ever been there. So it's going to be good. I'm, pushing the team here to create some crazy content for social media, so look out for that.
You're going to be all about that with, obviously, your experience in the tech area. But how are you going to bring any knowledge into what you want the Wildcats to stand for? And at the end of the day, it's all about winning, isn't it?
I think it's more than that. I mean, it's winning and community impact at the top level. We need to have both, and challenging on the winning side is, we've absolutely crushed it. If you think of 10 years ago, Wildcats were massively successful. The league itself was a basket case back then, and it's a lot better and a lot more competitive. So, we still want to win, and, we are the most supported team. It's us versus the East, let's be honest. I've already noticed that in the first week. Community impact-wise, I mean, the Wildcats does a huge amount in the community. It's not tracked or communicated well. I'll give you an example. I just, before I'd even taken over, my daughter's school wanted to see if the Wildcats could donate something, and I was like, hey, can we get something? And they gave me a ball signed by the whole team, and I was like, whoa. Yeah. So, there's a lot of stuff that's just unreported, and, it's very, very positive stuff in the community.
They always have been very good at it, but as you said, that it's not communicated broadly. Mark, how much influence are you going to have over actual running of the team and selections and signings and things like that?
So there's a team here led by Danny Mills, who's the general manager of basketball operations. I can't add any value in that area, to be honest. I'm a rubbish basketball player. I don't know much about that. Obviously, I'm across it from a, business perspective, but, my value add is not there.
It's in fixing the Wi-Fi, fixing
the Wi-Fi, I'm the head of IT, multi-hats.
I love that.
Mark Arena, Tina's brother, I want to know, how do you get to a place, because you're quite young, how do you get to a place where you can buy a basketball team at your age? What's your story?
So my background's technical, so I worked as a programmer after studying at ECU here in Perth. And moved over to Canberra, ended up working as a technical specialist at the Federal Police. My unique skill is tracking bad guys online, so cyber criminals.
Oh, like on Hunted.
And hackers. Yeah.
Hackers.
Yeah, exactly. I know what you've been looking up. It was doing that. In the end, I got recruited by a company, the American company. They're owned by Google now. But moved to Europe, and then after a couple of years left and started my own company, and was traveling like pre-COVID, was traveling all over the world pretty consistently. And so built the company like a real business. You know, a lot of tech companies take outside investment. We didn't do anything like that.
Wow.
And where we got acquired by a large American private equity firm.
To be acquired.
Yeah. So I'm still on the board there.
Yeah.
I was only in the US a couple of weeks ago for a board meeting. So, that was kind of my story. And a lot of people were like, who's this Mark guy? And it was like, well, if you look at my background, I didn't have a public profile for a reason, right?
Exactly.
The cybersecurity stuff's really interesting. So apart from defending against the criminals, being with cybersecurity, you would be able to then hack also into the areas that the criminals can hack into.
Ethically,
Shaun, Mark
obviously.
Arena, I'm not going to lie right now, Mark Arena, he's the person that came up with the two-factor authentication code.
Yeah. You know, for example, I was doing a lot of work in Kiev, in Ukraine, prior to the war. Most recently, a couple of months before the Russian invasion was when I was there last.
Wow.
Been to northern India where the Dalai Lama and the Tibetans live.
Yeah.
Taiwan, so all over the world, basically, where kind of bad guys are coming from and bad guys are impacting us.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
What we read on the TV, so what we see on the TV and what we read is a lot of it is state backed or government backed. So they always say the Chinese or all the Russia is that what's happening? Nations are getting behind hackers and trying to disrupt other countries.
Yeah, I mean, 100% is happening. If you look at what happened with the Hillary Clinton Trump election, I mean, there was clearly Russian influence to try and alter the outcome of the election. Whether it happened or not, don't know. Whether it impacted the result, rather, I don't know. But I mean, there's different elements, right? So there's definitely government people in these countries, in government offices, doing hacking for the government. Yeah. And then there's contractors, so government contractors to those agencies. And then there's kind of people in it for money who are maybe protected by the government or they're allowed to happen, and that might be they're protected at the top levels of government or they're paying money to local law enforcement. For example, like they're inside, some country, regional Russian town, and they're paying money to local law enforcement to not get arrested. So there's all these different elements. Is it like state-sponsored? Is it state-tolerated?
Yes.
Is it not state-tolerated and they're just bribing people locally? So all these different elements and different levels.
Okay.
You know stuff.
So interesting.
You know stuff.
Hey, Mark, really appreciate your time, mate. Go for the Perth Wildcats this year. We're looking forward to it.
And we know it wasn't your motivation, but we're very happy to see the Wildcats back in West Australian hands and somebody who's clearly been a fan all their life. We love that.
Awesome. Thank you very much. And congrats to you three. I mean, you three are the only I remember from radio from back in the day when I left Australia. So well done.
Well, we're still going. It means we've got no prospects, Mark. No other offers.
Good on you, Mark.
See you, man.
Shaun Sport in podcast form.
Plenty happening in the footy space overnight, just the last 24 hours. So first of all,
we'll keep
Jesse
it short
Hogan.
after 9.
Jesse Hogan was crowned the Coleman medalist.
Yep.
And he obviously came over. He was drafted as a young West Australian over to Melbourne. And he was so talented. He had testicular cancer. He lost his dad. Yeah. And he ended up coming back over to Perth. In that, he had some issues socially because he was going out and he lost his way. Yeah, in a nutshell. Yeah. And Fremantle couldn't deal with it for the years that they had given up so much for. Melbourne couldn't at the time.
It was very sad.
And he was nearly lost to the competition other than going to the GWS Giants. Yeah. And they
threw him a lifeline for sure.
Yeah, they did.
They took a punt on him.
Other clubs were like, I'm not sure if we can be
which it can be that's very understandable. Yeah.
Well,
so he's turned his life around
it's amazing,
in a couple of seasons, and he's the best.
Well done.
He won. So one of the big things in footy is a contested mark. It's very difficult to do. Jeremy McGovern always takes them for the West Coast Eagles in the back line. Yeah. Jesse Hogan, had 20 or 30 more marks than any other player in
that's
that
extraordinary.
in that
Wow.
form. That's just incredible. So well done to him.
It is really great to see someone claw their way back.
we love a redemption story. and
I really do.
This is a really good
I think
one.
everyone does.
Yeah, but
You
know
want to see
what?
the best. You want to see. You hope for the best for people, and sometimes they can't find their way to the
Yeah.
finish line.
And the fact
Yeah.
that he has is incredible.
Yeah, and the light at the end
And
of the
public.
tunnel is
Well
an
done,
oncoming train, but not for him. It was
Good on
really
him.
good. Moving on to the AFL, talking about the wildcard round that's certainly on the cards.
Is it though? I don't like it.
Well, here's the
happens?
thoughts of Andrew Dillon, what would take place this week.
We'd be sitting this weekend with, I think, the Hawks playing Fremantle and Carlton playing Collingwood. It'd be a huge weekend, but the final eight also has been in place for a while. It's served the competition very well. So we had a conversation with the CEOs in the middle of the year. It came up as something that deserves further investigation.
So what is
So
it?
you would like it
investigation.
this
What is
year?
So there's the top 8 at the moment, but they're looking at doing what they do in the NBA, which is to have
A loser team can get in.
Play in
if you're,
final.
you're outside
basically.
the 8, which is what happened to the Dockers and Collingwood. At
But
this
you're not
point
in the
time.
8 though, so why
Yeah.
should you get the chance of being
So
in
they're
the
going to do the next two teams, which would be
9 and
9 and 10, play 8 and 7.
So they're going to
bottom
do
four
it. I'd
teams.
rather see the two last teams get a wild card and do it. I'm sorry, if you're going to do it, let's
Hilarious.
make it. Yeah,
Let's make it a wild
wild
card.
That is wild
It-
card.
I mean, it's really just about ratings and money.
Yeah, okay.
It's-
Yeah.
Because I mean, if you're finishing 10th, do you deserve to be in the final? Because they're calling it a wild card. It's not. It's a final.
Well,
it's
this year you could vouch that. So Collingwood,
Yes.
Fremantle finished 10th. Could they beat Sydney? Absolutely. Collingwood, could they beat any other best team? Of course they could. But I'm with you, Nat. I'm more of a traditionalist,
Yeah.
and I'd like to be kept the same.
And you say
that
this
goes
year, but
my team out.
there'll be plenty other years where there is a clear distinction between the
Yeah.
top 8 and the next two teams.
I also want to mention that so Fremantle had the equal most amount of players nominated for the All-Australian team of 44
So in the
at this
squad,
point in
yeah.
time.
Yep.
5. Last week it was announced that Fremantle had the most amount of under 22-year-olds named in the best 22 of
Yes,
of
under
the
22.
year as
Isn't Pav
well.
on
And
these
that's
panels?
the second time as well. Pav's not on that panel. But how can there be
What?
such a disconnect between having
So many great
much
players.
talent that are nominated in the All-Australian team, so much talent that's nominated in the under-22 team, and to miss finals, miss and lose the last 4 games of the season to
Because
cost yourself
as you know,
playing.
Sean, an AFL team isn't just one player or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5. It's the whole team.
Was there crossover between those 5 in the under 22? Were some of those nominated for All Australian as well?
I think possibly Hayden Young, maybe.
Yeah, right.
Oh, by the
maybe, but
way-
he might be out of it. He might be a year older.
I read that list yesterday and I was right. Sticky hands with the
Yes,
with
Jake
the
Waterman.
bottom-ups.
Yes.
Jake Waterman.
And Gov, of course,
And
was
the
not.
Gov.
Got in there.
Gov should make it, shouldn't he?
Oh, Gov.
Yeah, the Gov
Yeah,
should make it.
yeah.
And finally, all the talk overnight has been about Christian Petrarca, Melbourne star, saying to the club that he wants to move and he wants to get out of there.
Yeah.
So
And
we
they're
know
saying-
Christian Petrarca here as Sam's boyfriend.
Yeah, Sam, our digital content
Loves him.
He
manager,
loves him.
he loves him.
Loves him. We'll break up with his partner Conrad for him.
Yeah.
Lots of people know him as that guy that cooks on TikTok.
Yeah, no, I love him.
Can
I've
I
watched it
say,
myself.
I really love because if I've heard about someone from another team that's not from WA, then obviously
They're a big name.
Yeah, they're a big name. So I heard that he loves cooking, and he's one of his other teammates who I don't really know his name. He does art, and now he talks to all of his friends about all of the players about the art he does, and he says everyone's really interested in it. So he's having an art exhibition, and Petrarca is cooking for
He's
it.
doing the
He's
catering.
doing the catering.
Well, that's outstanding. They
Isn't
might
that
be
cool?
teammates for so
No.
much longer.
Well,
Most
where would he
people.
go? Where would he go?
Well, they're talking about. I mean, now you only go to the
big-
big clubs,
the big
and that's
clubs,
Carlton,
yeah.
Collingwood, and Richmond. But you're not going to go to Richmond
You're not
because they're
gonna go to
crap, and they're going
Richmond,
to be rubbish for a couple more years. So it's the other two. Melbourne, Gary Lyon was saying on AFL 360 last night that they would never let him go.
No.
They're just not going to let him go. So he is going to be. He signed a
Disgruntled.
contract, 6 years. Couple of $1 million a year, probably, as it works out. Bad luck, you turn up to pre-season, and they will think that they will win him over at some stage.
Yeah,
It
right.
does seem old South slave farm situation when
Except-
saying I will never let him go. Except for
for
they're
the
being
$1
paid
million.
$1 million.
Yeah.
But just the whole human rights thing sounds a bit.
But he
Yeah.
signed a contract, so
no,
yeah,
I get
yeah.
that. But it's crazy. I was saying to you, Sean, earlier on that what happens when a player wants to leave, does
Yeah.
not want to be there, but the club's not letting him go. Do you get the best performance out of them?
Well, in the end, you kind of
Because
have
you sort of
yeah.
because they are their own business, so they have to put their best foot forward. But do you care that they're seething about being there? Or
No,
do they
they'll
turn
get over
themselves
it.
around mentally?
They'll get over it because they know
It
they have to
happens
get it
from
done.
time to time. But
Rory
yeah.
Lobb was a couple of years ago
Yeah.
before the Freeman. He was trying to get traded. Trade never got done. He played a whole season with the Dockers, did his best, and then he's gone to the Western Bulldogs. He'll be the same. Whether or not he goes in a couple of years' time, that's to be.
Yeah.
to be
Who's just one of those
decided.
people that always has his keys in his hand just in case.
Absolutely.
You know,
Absolutely.
people that rock up to your house. I'm just stopping by. They still got the keys. So I'm not staying here.
Because what would they have to offer to get like a team?
Oh, all of it.
What would Carlton have to offer to get Melbourne to send Christian
You would
Petrarca
have to
their way?
have 3 first-round
Yeah,
draft
and
picks,
they
which
don't have
they
that.
don't have.
No. So it's not going to happen.
Shaun Sport is a Nova podcast. For more great comedy shows like this, head to novapodcast.com.au.